Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Talkin Kop. It is Tuesday night. It's the 23rd of July. Liverpool have signed nobody, and that's just going to continue on until the 4th of September, and then we can all have a massive breakdown together, and it'll be the crack. Tonight, I'm joined by Kev, by Ashley, by Chris, for a show that's a little bit different. We've called it the must-haves this summer, and it's not all about Liverpool. It can be about Liverpool. I might throw that question around the table when we towards the end, but it's more about players that these three people think clubs should be looking at, clubs should be trying to get, and what clubs should be looking for what players. A little bit like that. So it's a little bit of a, not so much transfer gossip, just us going, he should sign for them, he'd be great for them, stuff like that. All right. So, I don't, where we start? Chris, how are you?
Hello. Half asleep. How are you?
The other half asleep, honestly. If
That's
me and you were
okay.
together, we'd be fully asleep. That's how tired I am and how you are. But Chris, we're looking at, this summer, we're looking at overall, very little happening at the moment. No, couple of standout signs. I think the lad from Leeds going to Spurs, I think, is kind of a standout signing. You look at United doing a couple, City have done one, but this show a little bit different. I wanted to ask you about players that you look at this summer, and not necessarily for Liverpool, but for maybe just a player where you think need to go and get him now. This could be perfect for this club, perfect for that club. You might have one, you might have two. I'm not too sure. But I'm going to start with you. Throw us a name and we'll see where we end up.
The one I had in my mind was Isak to Arsenal.
Oh, okay.
That's because I kind of feel I know Arsenal scored a lot of goals last year, but I always felt in the real crunch games, City away, Bayern Munich, they don't have a killer, an absolute number 9 killer. If you look at Liverpool have Salah, City have Haaland. I kind of just feel he would work well for them because they like to play counter-attacking football. He'd be great in the break because he's quick. He's got clever movement. He's still physical enough to give them a bit of a physical target man as well, and he's deadly. The only slight concern about him is probably he does pick up one or two injuries, but he doesn't pick up as many as Jesus, who I think is a good player, but I just don't think he's your 20 goal a season man, and I just feel that's what they need. Honestly, I think if they signed Isak, everyone would sit up and pay attention then, because I think that would rattle a few people.
I agree with you. And I think if you go back about 6-8 months ago, coming into the January window, there's an awful lot of talk about Osimhen from Napoli going there. All right. And if you go back a year previous to that, there was an awful lot of talk of Calvert-Lewin from Everton going in there. And if you look at them all, they're strong, they're physical, they're good in the air, they're a bit of a focal point. How much of this in your mind, though, is around the fact that Newcastle may need to sell to buy, not to get past PSR because that's come and gone, but to sell to buy, and the names on the list at the time I think were Bruno Gomes, was Anthony Gordon, and was Alexander Isaac. Is that part of your thinking on this?
A little bit, but I just looked at what Arsenal needed. Outside looking in, I'm not massive on the keeper, but I just look at Arsenal, and that was always my feeling with them when I was playing against them. Is I know they beat us at their place, but I kept thinking like, I just don't fear that whoever plays number 9 for them enough. Whereas a few of the other sides, you do fear who they have as their number 9, like Tottenham have Son, and you just think, oh Jesus, if he's through, you're done for. I've United United to a certain extent with Hoyland, not quite to the same level, but I think he's getting there. I just feel it's what they need. I also feel if Arsenal want to say they're back and they want to throw the weight around, this is what City did first time round. Is they picked up all Arsenal's pretty decent players and built them way up. That's another way of doing it. Newcastle are open to this not because of PSR. They're open to this because they didn't get to Europe at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just feel that players like Gordon, Isak, Ramirez will want to play in Europe. Now, listen, Newcastle have got so much money they could probably afford to pay them enough wages to make them happy.
Yeah.
But I just feel like he's a type of player that Arsenal could do with, and I do think that would probably be enough then to push them. Because what you're then saying is, you're saying he's in rotation with Jesus, and if Jesus is coming off the bench, we saw when he was a regular rotation option for City, he's much more effective because it's less strain on his body. And he's a very effective coming off the bench as a sub. So I think it gives them a new dimension.
Yeah, It's always something. There's a couple of Arsenal fans I speak to, one in particular, who's convinced they won't sign a striker this year. For the simple reason is the way they look to play. They have Havertz up there. They'll have Jesus some of the time because he does get a bit injured every now and then, and they kind of mixing those two around and the way they play and look the way they get around teams rather than lashing crosses in the box. He's convinced they won't sign a striker. But Kev, on Arsenal, really good, a brilliant season last season, league season, 89 points I think it might have been. A really, really good season. It was an improvement on the season before. They ran City to the last game. And when you watch them score plenty of goals and were brilliant at the back from January onwards. But with Arsenal, I always think, put a 25-goal striker in there and I think you'll score even more goals and you'll actually concede less because people will be fucking terrified of you. And there's times where Arsenal look a bit shady because teams go, we'll go at it and take our chances. But when you have someone like that, even when you look at City and Haaland, and even going back to Liverpool and Salah, teams were terrified to come up the pitch because they'll kill you in behind or they get someone else in behind them, square it to Haaland, he doesn't miss. Hey, do you feel, and I'm not turning this to an Arsenal show, but do you feel like with what Chris is saying there, when Isaac, someone along them lines is absolutely what Arsenal should be looking at first and foremost this summer?
Well, if they get over the line, the business with Calafiori, get that one over the line. You've got Julian Timber coming back in after his horrendous injury last year.
So defensively, they're fine.
Defensively, they're going to be absolutely rock solid anyway. But yeah, it's clear as day they need a 9. We saw Havertz playing for Germany in the Euros, and he did a job. He's really good in that environment where he's not expected to be the main man. But I honestly think that with Arsenal, they spread the goals around a lot, which is okay. But Chris is bang on. There are games when it's tight and you need one, and you want that one to fall to a clinical striker in the box. It doesn't have to be Isaac. And I think Newcastle would be open to selling at least one, because reality of this summer has got to have hit home now. The fact that they had a foray in Europe, it didn't work out for them. But to get back in there, to get back into Europe again, they're going to have to sell a saleable asset to reinvest it, like we had to with sell one, bring in 2, maybe 3. And that's how most clubs have to operate. That you could have a bang in get into the top 4 like Aston Villa this season, almost kind of like by default. You weren't expecting it, but suddenly you're in there. The trick is staying in there. If you get in there for the first season, you have to stay in there for the second. Then you can invest. But if you fall out of Europe completely, you're banjaxed, because you'll have antsy players they don't want their careers to drift by. And Newcastle are in a devil in deep blue sea situation because, they're going to be playing a lot less games this season, but they're also one Isaac injury away from calamity. So them having one serious number 9 isn't enough. They need at least another one, and maybe even one more. So they have Newcastle are kind of like a lot of other really good clubs in the Premier League. 1 to 11, they're very, very dangerous. But an injury to Isaac where he misses 2 months and you're depending on Callum Wilson. I don't even know if Callum Wilson's there anymore.
There was talk he was going to Saudi.
I thought he was going as well. So it might be a case.
I'm sure he's injured at the moment as well.
But that could be a deal that could happen in order for wheels to move somewhere else. But there are a few other strikers floating around at the minute that I'm surprised aren't getting stronger links to Arsenal.
Yeah,
but we'll see how it goes. But they definitely need a number 9.
Yeah, actually, we've spoken a little bit over the last while with regards to Arsenal and the money they've spent, and they need to do this and they need to win that to kind of make things okay financially. But I think Arsenal could do something like an Isaac or whoever, a striker. They could do it quite, not easily, but when, like Kevin Ball says there, if Arsenal can move on a few fringe players, they could possibly drum up, if Isaac's going to cost you 70 or 80 million quid, they could possibly get 70 or 80% of that up on fringe players, the likes of Smith Rowe. Maybe you sacrifice Nketiah.
They're both PSR diddles as well, because they're pure profit for your first.
Yeah, one. and then even somebody mentioned there Kieran Tierney. maybe, if you can get him out. It's very doable for Arsenal. It's not like they would have to massively stretch themselves to make a striker happen and financially kill themselves. They could do this quite easily. Would it surprise you if Arteta would go into next season and go, no, we're absolutely fine, we'll just sign another defender and maybe a wide attacker and we're good?
I mean, it depends on what he envisions his tactics going forward to be and whether or not he wants that central nine or if he wants to do kind of like the old Pep thing where there is no striker and that's what it is. But I personally think they could use a striker. The person that I chose to highlight as well, we'll come to later, I also think could be a fit for Arsenal for a striker. And I think the thing with them that they need to be careful with is that they have run the same group of players for, I think, about 2 or 3 seasons now in a row with very little rotation. And I think our team knows and our fan base knows for a fact that does not continue. Like, you can be fortunate for a few seasons in a row, but if you're flogging the same players and you're going to play an intensity style football, and granted, it's not as intense as Klopp football, but if you're playing at that intensity, they will start to fall off. And I worry with Arsenal that they don't necessarily have the depth that comes onto the bench, off of the bench, and makes a difference. Very similar to what we were dealing with when we kind of first broke onto the, I want to say, like, big Champions League scene. Like, we had fringe players, but they weren't coming onto the pitch and making a difference. And they need a plan B if something happens to go wrong, because everything's been quite rosy for them so far.
Yeah, I think everything injury-wise, suspension-wise, they've been, you could say, fortunate, but they have had, every week you'd literally know who they were going to play, and they might drop Martinelli and put Trossard in. You know what I mean? Or they might Partey showed a bit towards the end of the season, but I think he's gone now. And
it's probably what cost them the league, November to December, because when it became thick and fast, I think that's when it cost them.
But they go away then. They go away to this warm weather training and come back and decide, right, we're not going to make all these games massively gung-ho now. We're actually going to be rock solid defensively and control the ball an awful lot more, dictate games an awful lot more. And they showed it. Their form was brilliant from January onwards, let's be honest about it. Absolutely brilliant. But when it comes down to it, I think you have a fair point. You run this, like Saka. Saka looked like he was injured after 60 minutes of every game, and he just kept coming off, and then he's on the next game, and I actually think you've seen a little bit of that in the Euros. I'm going to be honest. He gets a good goal. Don't get me wrong, he gets a good goal in the semis, isn't it, against Holland? But overall, I thought Saka looked a yard off. He just couldn't look like he could burst by people, and if that continues on, you're not saying Arsenal will be in trouble, but even things like that, if you have a centre forward up there and he's going to be taking chances, you can leave Saka out for a game. That fella, you see, I think if they become over-reliant on one or two and that player isn't central, the one or two out wide, they can hurt you, because we seen it at Liverpool. Salah was brilliant, Mane was brilliant, but when you took Firmino out, it was a different thing altogether. They had to work an awful lot harder for chances and things like that, and that can really, that can really fucking affect you as things go on. But we'll have to see where Arsenal. We might be back to them in a little bit, actually, because I think a couple of the picks here may get Arsenal mentioned again, because it's striker heavy tonight. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to throw a couple of names at you towards the end just to see what you think. Go on, actually, we might as well go to you. We'll go with your player. So, as an idea of a player that you think should be not looking for a move, but club should be looking to get him out of that club this summer, who have you gone with?
I went with Dominic Solanke.
Right.
I think that after the season that he's had, he's 26. I think the time right now is he's ready for that move. I think he has kicked on in a way that we kind of all wanted him to. It didn't work out for him with Liverpool. And, I think that both sides can kind of look at the deal that we got for him, which I think was 19 million. I think we can both be really happy with that. When we sold him, I think we thought we were getting a deal. And now looking back, I think that Bournemouth think that they got a deal too.
Yeah.
I think at this point in time, though, he's ready to take the step up. And I don't really have a specific club in mind. I have 3 or 4 that have sort of been bandied about. And the 3 or 4 are basically West Ham, Arsenal, Spurs, and the last one, which I don't know if they can afford because of PSR, is Newcastle if Isaac was to go and they needed a replacement. I don't know if West Ham and Newcastle are a bit of a sideways step for him, if that's a big enough jump. But I think in terms of wages that they could offer and the potential to get into Europe next year, that's something that could be on offer. The one thing with him that's really interesting is that he has a release clause. He has a £65 million release clause, but it's only for specific clubs, and they haven't really clarified which clubs those are. I think that would probably imply clubs that were in Europe. So we're looking more at the Spurs and the Arsenal. I think he could do a job at either of those 2 clubs. It's whether or not he can continue his form and kind of prove that he can be, a big fish in a big pond instead of a big fish in a little pond. But his numbers from last season support it. I mean, he had 19 goals, 3 assists. He's English. I think he needs a move anyways to progress his career. If he wants to get onto the England team for the next competition, the only way he's going to do that, I think, is by moving up.
He's a very interesting one. I think he moved from Liverpool to Bournemouth, and I think last season might have been his 2nd or 3rd season at Bournemouth. I could be wrong. But,
3rd, I think.
Yeah, and the second season you're kind of going fits and starts. Couple of goals here, couple of goals there, looks bright, still a bit off it, But last season, whenever I watched him, he looked like a player that was carrying a team. And I'm not telling you Bournemouth were brutal and they couldn't play football, because some of the football they played was really good. But he really looked like he took the mantle and went, no, I'm the main man here. I am the main man, and I'm going to cause havoc. I'm going to make chances for people. I'm going to score goals. And he was taking some difficult chances and making goals out of them. He was running some really good defences ragged when I seen him play. When it comes to a move, though, I think it's hard. I don't see the Newcastle thing happening, right? Because I agree with you. At the moment, that feels like maybe 1 step up, whereas a Spurs probably feels 2 or 3 steps up, and I think Arsenal feels like a step right to the top, right? So it all depends on his kind of ambition. If I was to pick a club for him, I would probably lean towards Arsenal, right?
I'd lean towards Spurs.
Would you? Well, I'll give you my reason on Arsenal, right? The reason I lean towards Arsenal is because Arsenal score an awful lot of goals and they look rock solid, right? So if Dominic Solanke goes into Arsenal and scores 15, 16, 17 goals, you're going, you know what? That's good for a 4th season coming up into this team. I think if he goes to Spurs, who I think are shaky as fuck, right, and can concede goals at the drop of a hat, I think if he scores 14, 15, 16, 17 goals for Spurs, it would be considered, bad season, not enough. Look where they ended up, because you're looking at the defensive record. I would lean towards that, but I agree with you on the fact that now might be the time with a New England manager coming in. Some England players coming towards the end. Some players that would expect to be in the squad and weren't. There's definitely a chance to get in there. There's 100% a chance to get in there, because if you're looking at England in 2 years' time, you don't know what shape Harry Kane's going to be in. Ollie Watkins has done himself no harm. Ivan Toney has done himself no harm. And after that, you're kind of going, there's definitely a position here. Chris, you'd lean towards Spurs.
I'll lean towards Spurs only because he's got to get used to doing the 3-game-a-week thing of getting used to Europe. So I think Europa League's a good step up for him in terms of how they want to play. And I always felt Spurs, when they were under Pochettino and they were in Champions League and they were, probably should have won something, their best attack was always Son on one wing and a central Harry Kane in the middle. I kind of feel if you had Solanke in the middle, Son one side, and then either Richarlison or the other winger, what's his name? Kulusevski.
Yeah.
On the other wing. I feel like that gives you enough pace, power, rotation, he's more clinical, and I think it takes a bit of pressure off Son. And then you have Werner as your rotation option. I think it gives them enough to rotate the 3-game-a-week thing. My gut feeling is, and listen, it's just obviously social media is what it is. I could see Arsenal fans having an absolute meltdown if they signed him because he's English, because he's from Bournemouth. The optics is that's not what you want if you want to win the league. We've seen that because if we signed him, we're saying the guy who got 15, 20 goals in the Premier League, everyone would go, yeah, but he's from fucking Bournemouth. I kind of feel there would be an added pressure. Listen, he may rise to it and then people can eat the words, but I'm not convinced the Arsenal fan base would accept it. Where they would accept Isaac because it's a fancier name, it's a bit more exotic, and I do think the optics sometimes that doesn't help. So
yeah, I 100% get that, but you see, right? Do you know what, Kev? Dominic Solanke.
Delighted for him first and foremost because he came to Liverpool. He was too young. You know, we got a great deal when we got him from Chelsea, from basically their youth academy, and you could see that there's a player there, but it was too big a move, and he's too young, and he came into it just was a square peg in a round hole. It never fitted for us. But you saw last season, he bought into the new Bournemouth manager, and the players around him, everything was geared towards him being the number 9, and he rose to it. He's figured out who he is and what he can do. And last season he was unbelievable. And for an English 26-year-old striker, it can only be because he'd be from Bournemouth that he isn't being talked about or linked to every club who needs a striker all summer long. It's madness that he isn't being linked everywhere. Dylan O'Rourke came up with a great shout in the chat. Aston Villa. Aston Villa looking for someone either to play up front with Watkins or to play as an option for Watkins or to add depth to their squad if they're selling Joran. It could be a really interesting move for him. It's not quite a massive stratospheric, title challenging club, but it's a club who are going to be involved in the Champions League, who are building a really good squad under a very good manager. I think a move to Villa could be really good for him. And they played a kind of football as well that would suit him.
The thing is Dominic Solanke going to Aston Villa to be alright, Champions League? But is he going to Aston Villa to be possibly understudy to Ollie Watkins?
No, I think the way Unai Emery has played in the past, he's well happy playing a 4-4-2.
Right.
And there is no reason why you couldn't have a pairing of Watkins and Dominic Solanke as a front two. Okay. With 2 wingers either side, supported by 2 central holding midfielders in Onana and another, to just play proper football. And there's no reason why he couldn't strike up a partnership with an Ollie Watkins. Big man, little man. We've seen it work so many times in the past. And the fact that both of them are quick. Watkins is express pace. He's got brilliant vision to be able to run in behind. And Solanke is shown last season that he can finish all kinds of chances, and I think it will be a really good step for him. I don't think he'd be cheap, but I think if the buyout clause is of that kind of ilk, that £65 million range, I think that is a gamble worth taking on someone at his age with the potential to kick on. Even if he bombs, the worst case scenario is that you'll recoup the vast majority of money.
I think you get him cheaper than that, than the 65 million.
I do too.
I think if you said to somebody, right, we'll give you 40 million or 45 million, rising to 55 to 60, that you're covering yourself. Because then what happens is, like you said, if it doesn't quite go right, you might get 35 back on them, and you're losing a few quid, but you're not paying out those extras. And look, all due respect to Bournemouth, if a Spurs or indeed a Newcastle, a Villa, and Arsenal come in and put money down, Dominic Solanke's probably saying to them, look, I've given you 3 years, I've come out of the Championship with you, we've stayed up, blah 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 blah, I'm entitled to move, the sort of way. And actually, I think you mentioned in the chat there where we were talking, he's only on 70 grand a week, and that has to be appealing to people, actually. Just the last thing on it. That has to be appealing to people. Because you know you can go into Dominic Solanke and go, listen, we can give you 30% rise in your wages, base. We can give you 100 grand a week. And you're going to come up and you're not going to be worried about relegation. You're going to be playing in Europe. And you're going to be playing in all these cup competitions that we could go far in. Like, again, no disrespect to Bournemouth, but 30% wage rise and going to one of these sides has to be, at 25 or 26, whatever Dominic Solanke is, has to be massively attractive for him, because this is a chance where it could go wrong at Bournemouth this next season. The next while people going, nah, Solanke's time is gone. A bit like Calvert-Lewin.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it'd be to Bournemouth's benefit to cash in while the iron's hot. And I mean, you're talking about, like, if you're talking about Villa, for example, like Leon Bailey's on 120. You could easily offer him something similar to that. I mean, I'm not their accountant, but that would be a appealing pay rise to Solanke. I don't know why I can't say his name today.
Okay.
Like, Timo Werner is on 165. Like, he should be able. He's much better than Timo Werner.
He's an absolute crook, that fella. Like, honestly.
Well, yeah. I don't know how he got that.
It's like Choupo-Moting, yeah, man. You know the guy that was with Stoke and he was absolutely melodian. Choupo-Moting, or is that his name? Something like that. And he goes, and next one, you're like, is he with PSG? And then like, no, he's with Bayern. You're like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this fella couldn't kick snow off a rope playing for Stoke, and he just keeps getting these moves. It's phenomenal. Like,
well, look at Hosselu. He was at Stoke for a bit. Now he's Real Madrid. Now he's won the Champions League with Real Madrid.
Yeah, it's absolutely mental. But I think he's as a package, I think it's a really attractive player to look at this summer, and I think it'd be interesting to see if someone just. I'm not saying someone goes heavy on Dom Solanke, but if someone just tests the water, just to see the reaction of the player and the club, you know. But
and
again,
there might be like a homegrown thing in there too. I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. Because you know, you see we know as Liverpool fans, people love an old homegrown chart. You know, middle of August, the homegrown charts come out and you're counting how many's homegrown, how many's not, how many of those Dutch fellas will actually be homegrown in next year. Some fellas 23 and bleeding October. We do all this stuff. We know, we've done this dance. But it's
Leave Kev alone.
No, Kev loved it's not Kev. Who's the person that loves them? It might be Kev actually. Fuck it.
It is Kev.
Yeah, fuck it. I'm too tired to think of anybody else. Kev, it's your fault. But what I'm saying is it's an attractive package, and just see someone test the water just to see what the reaction is. And just to see if it brings anybody else out of the woodwork. Because in fairness, between us four and people in the chat there, we've probably mentioned about 6 clubs, and they're all kind of viable when it comes to Dominic Solanke. Yes, strike while the iron's hot. But again, Bournemouth won't want to leave this till the 20th of August. If you're going to do something on this, I think once the 1st of August turns here, because of the Euros and because of the Copa and teams missing players, possibly for the start of the season, you're going to have to get in and get players. Because the closer it gets to the end of this window, teams are going to go, I'm not letting them go because I can't get a replacement. And even if I do, that player won't be able to play for me for the 4th week of the season. And
well, they've got a new sporting director too. So it could be that could be a really big deal to get over the line. If you wanted to get some cash flow and you wanted to stamp your mark as a new sporting director there, it's an option.
Yeah. Don't we have a selling clause for him as well?
Yeah.
We do. We would get around 9 million for him if the 65 was triggered.
Nice. People should be.
I think he's worth. I think he's worth 65 all day long.
No, it'd be great. They get 40. So what is it? It's what's the percentage? 15%, is it?
It's 20%, like of anything after the profit.
Okay. So what's going to happen here is he'll move. We get about 4 million, and then people will go, why did we make it 30? What were we doing making it 20%? When he was sold, we were like, this is great. 19 million, 20% on. But do we still have the buyback option on? Just as a matter of interest.
We did, but it expired.
Maybe we just go back and pay 65 from everyone's head will fall off, and that'll be amazing too.
Yeah, we would have bought someone.
Kev, last but not least, after upsetting you about the whole homegrown stuff, I can see a few.
Yeah, it upset me at all.
No, I know I don't upset you.
Sunday upset me.
Sunday really upset you. And look,
Sunday
all
really
I can say,
me.
Kev, is swings and roundabouts. You win some, you lose some. You know, the only good thing to look out of this is everybody in the whole planet now wants to watch hurling.
Wouldn't it great? Wouldn't it great to see the British reaction of people who were watching?
The Brits loved it. They fucking thought it was great. Actually, did you watch the highlights?
I did. There was someone, I think it was on the Late Show podcast, where they were talking about how it was basically like if you took like an egg and spoon contest and you made it as competitive as possible, that's what it would be like.
Yeah.
And that made sense to me.
Yeah, it's phenomenal gear. You have to just keep watching it. Keep watching it. It's phenomenal. And the football final is on this weekend, so that should be fun as well. Kev, last but not least, give me a player before I start throwing some at you, and we start talking about the stuff on the Anfield Road end that's clearly a sign that Trent's signing a new contract.
Absolutely on that one. Right. My player would, and I was surprised at this because a couple of weeks ago, Julian Alvarez asked to leave Man City.
Oh, sorry. Update. Apparently, Kevin De Bruyne is not leaving Manchester City for Saudi Arabia. Go.
Yeah. But he did agree a contract with Al Ittihad. So he's been talking to the club and agreed a contract, but Al Ittihad has Pep said no.
Oh.
Yeah. Kevin De Bruyne is gone. It's just a case of what fee Al Ittihad is going to pay.
Okay.
But for me, Julian Alvarez asking to leave should set alarm bells off in every top club in Europe.
Correct.
But for me, no more so than Tottenham. I think he's tailor-made for Postecoglou. People think I hate Tottenham. I don't. But Julian Alvarez is tailor-made for Postecoglou, for the way he plays football. Heung-min Son is not a number 9. And no matter how much people try to shoehorn him into being a number 9, he's not a number 9. They don't have a striker worth talking about. Richarlison is a Mickey Mouse striker. He blows hot and cold. Timo Werner's a disaster robbing a living playing football because he's really fast and he can kick the ball really hard. And the other fella, the Welsh kid that they got off Nottingham Forest, another one. He can run really, really fast. They don't have a proper finisher. They don't have a striker at the club at all, in any stretch of the imagination. And if they want to be seen as a club with the best stadium in the country, in England, and want to be seen as a club that is capable of getting into the Champions League, they need a proper striker. They never replaced Harry Kane. They spent a shitload of money, but they never replaced Harry Kane. Julian Alvarez is 24 years of age, right? He's scored, what did he score? He's played 67 appearances in the Premier League, scores 20, assists 9. And it's no wonder he wants out of City. He'll never be the main man. The main man. And if he wants to be a striker, he's not going to be a striker at Man City unless Haaland gets injured. So his international feats of what he's won with Argentina is showing that he's well capable of playing at the highest level. Yeah. Atletico Madrid were desperate for him, apparently. I think Arsenal would be mad not to be desperate for him, but Man City have already sold to Arsenal once, and I don't think they'd be willing to sell this type of player to Arsenal.
Not the position. No, I don't think the position they're both in at the moment.
No, because I think he's definitely one player that could propel Arsenal to a title.
Yeah,
but to Spurs, I think, and it kind of got out in the media with fees and what Man City were looking at. And apparently Man City are looking at €70 million plus 20 million in bonuses to sell Julian Alvarez this summer. And by all accounts, they want something like €58 million up front. And that should be doable for a club like Spurs. You know, and you're getting a quality number 9 who could become a top scorer in the league in the right setup, in the right environment. I think it's an absolute no-brainer for Spurs to be in for this guy. They've been linked around with Ivan Toney and they've been linked around with a few other strikers. But for me, when you start seeing leaks about clubs setting fees for players, you know that there's willingness to negotiate and there's willingness for a deal to be done. For me, that one, it makes all the sense in the world for Spurs to be banging the door down at Man City. Yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah.
And just get a deal done.
It's mad, isn't it? Because we're talking a couple of strikers here in Spurs and Arsenal have both come up on it. And it's funny Liverpool haven't, you know, because Liverpool, I think most people feel that Liverpool will make a signing if one leaves, you know, that sort of way.
Yeah.
I take Julian Alvarez at Liverpool tomorrow.
So would I.
And I would possibly fuck any of our forwards out to get him in. To be honest with you,
but for the same reason as Man City wouldn't sell.
Yeah. I know.
Arsenal. They're not going to sell to us.
I think his versatility is brilliant. I think you can play him in a 10. You can play him left, you can play him right, you can play him through the middle. I think he wants to be a central striker though. And I'm not saying, look, that I'm only messing with you. I don't think I'd fuck everybody out. I just think if there was an opening, if Liverpool were going into this season, you're going, we need to sign a centre forward, and this fella becomes available, you do your best to make it just impossible for him to say no to you. But actually, it's sort of, I'm a big admirer of him. I have been since he came into the Premier League. Knew nothing before that because I don't watch football outside of it. But is there a big danger of him being lost to the Premier League here? The Premier League losing him? Because when I think of Julian Alvarez, I'm thinking, if you're looking at 58 million up front, I'm thinking PSG straight away. I'm not too sure if Atletico could do that, but I'm sure they'd try find a way. I'm actually thinking Bayern Munich. I'm thinking Bayern Munich as well. And I know Kane is there, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bayern had a sniff around him. Are the Premier League at risk of losing him here? Because teams have other things to do, and despite Julian Alvarez possibly being a brilliant signing for you, you might leave yourself short somewhere else, and his impact won't be felt as much because of your frailties elsewhere. What do you think on Julian Alvarez? Because it looks like he wants to leave, and remember, with him wanting to leave, it means City want to bring somebody in. So where do you see for him? I think any of the top clubs in England is a good show for him. Funny enough, if Manchester United weren't in Manchester, that's the forward they should have signed.
I would certainly take him. He's very technically gifted. He's young. You can tell he's very hungry. I'm surprised that City would even let him go. I don't know what's happening over there with, rats jumping ship and all of that stuff, but I'm shocked that they would even consider letting him leave. Because I think that kind of like Cole Palmer leaving and then exploding, this could do exactly the same thing. And if you're a club that is looking to win trophies, this kid knows how to win trophies. So if you're talking about Spurs or Arsenal needing that kind of leadership, even at a young age, he's your guy that you could get. And again, I have no idea if, they would sell to Arsenal. I doubt they would, but I would think that would actually work with him and Arteta, reconnecting. That might be a thing. But yeah, it kind of has a bit, what was the guy? Was it Torres? Ferran Torres?
Ferran Torres,
was at City for a blip and then moved on.
Went to Barcelona,
yeah. He could very well do that same kind of switch. I think he did really well once he left City as well. So yeah, you could definitely see that happening. I don't know. I'm shocked that he's even on the market, because for me, he's the long-term successor. I think Haaland goes in a year or two. I think he gets pulled away by a bigger club. I think having Alvarez there solidifies City's attacking force, and I might even make them better.
I think with Alvarez, the impression I get off Alvarez is he's going to win a World Cup, right? He's going to win a Copa, and I think he might be the main central striker. I think he might be, and he's probably looking at it going. He's probably looking at what's coming through at Argentina, the crest of the wave they're riding at the minute, and doesn't want to miss it. And you see it so often. Players are in international squads and they're flying, and next thing, another year on the bench, and there's 60 games in a season, and they start 20, and somebody just comes through, and all of a sudden, they're Argentina's flavour of the month, and Julian Alvarez can get forgotten not forgotten, but down the pecking order. And I think he's looking, at the age he's at, 24, he's looking to himself going, I am the next generation of Argentina. I am that. I genuinely am. So I need to put myself in a position where I'm number one at my club. And if I'm number one at my club, with the ability I believe I have, and he does have, that he stays as Argentina's main man for the next 6, 7, 8 years. But he's in danger of not doing that. You see it with Brazil. Brazil have these players and you think they're brilliant, and all of a sudden they go through a blip, and next thing this 17-year-old comes along and he's brilliant and he's playing. I don't care who you are, this guy is playing, because the media will tell you we want this 17-year-old to play. And that's where I think Lautaro Martinez, of course, is up front. Thanks a million, Super Dizzle. But that's where I think right now Alvarez is looking at going, I've managed that City to stay in this Argentina side. I've won plenty. That might be a bit of an element of what the fuck's coming down the road, get out of Dodge. But at the same time, I think he wants to solidify his place as the main man for Argentina. And there's more of a chance of him doing that by leaving City. And the fact that he's asked to leave and asked City to accept and a reasonable bid, I think, is the really interesting part. Chris, there's going to be no shortage of takers for this guy. The only way City put them off is, as Ashley said, 58 million up front or whatever, 20 million in bonuses and all this sort of stuff. But if you need a centre forward, you don't look much further than this fella. And I include when you're looking at Isaac or Solanke or Osimhen, you don't look much further than this fella.
Yeah, you don't, because he's got everything you need. He's a complete package. You know, he was key to them winning the World Cup, and he does a lot of the running for Messi, and he was brilliant in the Copa America. So I'll be honest, any club who get him is a game changer for me. They go up levels if you get him, which is why it seems baffling that City would let him go.
Yeah. Actually, you're saying there he's under contract in 2028.
Yeah.
Is that right? So
yeah.
He's only so something's gone on here. If he's under contract till 2028, he signed a new deal in 2023. Would I be right?
He signed a 1-year contract extension.
So he must have signed a 6-year deal at City.
Yeah.
Because that's 4 years away.
Yeah,
So
it looks like 2023 he signed a contract extension till 2028.
Right. So in 2023 he signs a contract extension to 2028, which makes him 5 years. So he must have signed a 6-year deal originally to go to City, right? Something's happened there, because you don't sign a deal for that. If you'd have told me he was under contract till 2026, I would have went, he wants to go City. But 5 years left, 4 years left in the deal, and he's asking to leave. Something's gone on there without a shadow of a doubt. Super Diddle says, would they sell to us? They wouldn't. They wouldn't sell to us. If City can do, if City can do a job where they can get him to a Bayern Munich or a Barcelona or Atletico Madrid or someone like that, they'll do that. Yeah. They won't leave him in the league.
Well,
if they
that was the original. That was the original link, and that's kind of why the Julian Alvarez to Atletico Madrid, and it sprung up. I saw it in the last couple of days that Villa were looking at the possibility of João Felix, getting him out of Atletico Madrid on a reasonable fee. So that's a kind of a triangle that could work. You wouldn't know, but it's one to keep an eye on. But yeah, I find it weird that you're at a club who are going to be challenging for major honours in everything that they compete in, and he's asking to leave. And it's not as if he hasn't played. He's made 67 Premier League appearances over his time there. I think he played something like 33, 34 games last year. Not all starts, but he started an awful lot of games last year, deceivingly a high amount of games. You know, and you think they miss Haaland for a good chunk of time. De Bruyne was out for a fair length of time. He played a lot. And City are at the verge of that, coming to the end of a cycle with players that are the wrong side of 30. That's why I think De Bruyne goes. You know, he's 33. He's not going to get, if anything, the second half of last season and into the Euros, he was bang average. You know, he was nowhere near what he was. And he's not going to improve. He's not going to get better. Bernardo Silva, another one. His age is creeping up on him now. He's not as effective as what he was. He's still a great player. You know, an all-time Premier League great player, but he's not as good as what he once was. So having someone of Alvarez experience, flexibility and age, you'd think Man City would be doing everything to keep him, but it's just gone under the radar how he has to leave. And if there's any hesitation or any chance of getting him out of there, a club like Spurs should be all over that. They really, really should.
O'Shane says City, it looks like City are getting the guy off Girona, Dovbyk, for 30 million. So can't see Alvarez off to them this window, as Atletico quite stuck on their financials. I'm sorry, Atletico are getting this guy off Girona for 30 million euros. Look, again, it's another interesting player. I'm going to throw a couple at us right before we get on to a few bits before we finish. I was trying to think today, like, who should you go for? Who can you get? And not for Liverpool, just for anyone. I think the centre-back stuff is really interesting this summer. You know, when you look at, you know, you look what United have done with Euro. They've spent big on a player, young player with a year left and whatever, but he's still very, very highly rated, and they've bit the bullet and gone there. You look at, you know, Calafiori. I think that's more or less done to Arsenal, but again, another centre back. And I have said I think it's the transfer window of centre backs. The one I think you should be looking at, because I think this club have form for buying and selling and making money, and I'm gonna play as Kev here because I upset him earlier. It's Slaughterback off Borussia Dortmund, and they have got form for this. You know, they've done Bellingham, they've done Sancho, they've done Ousmane Dembele, they've done plenty of players where they bring them in for a certain amount, get rid of them, doubling and trebling their money, and they'll find a centre back somewhere who'll slot back in. Right, I think Slaughterback is one that if you're a club out there looking for a centre back, you should be all over this fella. Dortmund, I'm not saying they're easy to deal with, but they're always open to the right offer. And if you can make them the right offer, and Slaughterback, you know, does really well with Borussia, they get to a Champions League final. Can they sustain that? I would suggest he can't. And it's maybe time for him to have a move. I think Slaughterback is one that you really, really have to look at. Top of the pitch, there's two for me. There's three for me, right? And I'm going with my Liverpool hat a little bit on this. It's Kudus off West Ham, right? It's Williams of Athletic Bilbao, and it's the Georgian fella off Napoli, like Kvaratskhelia, I think.
Kvaratskhelia, yeah.
Did I do really well there? Not even a
did,
fucking half round of applause there. But they're the three I think when I look and think there's a chance here, because there's murmurs around Osimhen, right? Napoli, so it looks like Napoli are open to maybe a sale or two. Go in and test the water there. Nico Williams is just a joy to watch. Like, he's a joy to watch. And if there's 57 million release clause there, and I don't think that's true, right? Because honestly, you should have been queuing around the corner the day after the Euro final with 57 million quid in your pocket going, we'll have him, thanks very much, right? It's gone on too long that someone hasn't been absolutely nailed onto him. And
that feels to be like there's already a deal in the done.
Yeah,
Isn't Barcelona done?
They're saying
Almost
he is, but then Barcelona apparently are still looking scraping around for money and different things.
Barcelona need permission from the league to get this
to
one
sign these players. Yeah. And Kudus, that's me Liverpool hat on. I just think, you know, we're going to talk about another player in a minute, but when I look at him, I just think absolutely made for what we're looking for, both now and in the future.
What would scare me about Kudus now is the fact that he changed his agent to his family.
Yeah.
That would scare the
Nicholas and Elka vibes coming off this, isn't there?
Yeah.
Rabiot vibes.
And what's the other guy that signed for us and then didn't sign for us? He's with Betis now.
Oh, Fakir,
remember? And his brother went in and went. His brother went in and he's watching.
Still going to sign
and he was like,
soon, apparently.
give us another 5 million. They were like, fuck off, get out the door. The man still had the bleeding IV drip in his arm doing the medical, and they just pushed him out the emergency exit. You're not signing for us. But them
great
three,
player. Great player.
Kudus, I just think is just everything you want. Everything you want. And them three, I think this summer there's a chance of doing them. I think there's a chance.
Kvaratskhelia is the maverick.
And there's one. I love him.
To watch.
I love him.
I paid good money to
come here, I wouldn't
him.
give a shit if Liverpool won or not. Just give him the ball as much as you can and see what happens. And the one in midfield that I think if you're going in for a midfielder this summer, I think is Zubamendi. When I look at Zubamendi, I think the money's not outrageous, because you know you're being quoted 120 million off Benfica, aren't you, for this fuck off dog for João Neves. Yeah. So you're being quoted that, and then you have this guy. I think you got half the price. I'm gonna have to mute myself now and kill this dog, all right? But go on. Any other names you want to throw in the mix?
Well, Pete is throwing Kubo's name in there, and let's just quash this on the head straight away. All right, Kubo is we're knocking this on the head, because Kubo has been at Real Madrid for the last 3 years. They bought him to sell shirts in the Far East. Highly rated, highly sought after young prospect who's literally lived his life on loan since he's been at Madrid. He isn't quick. Technically, he's a good dribbler. He's lightweight. He doesn't score, and he doesn't assist. So why on earth are you buying him if you're not looking for someone to sell?
Is he no good, this good fella?
He's, how can you put it? Is Coutinho without the end product.
Right.
He's a silky dribbler that is no better than anything that we've got. Harvey Elliott shits all over it.
He's very Elliott-esque.
No, Harvey Elliott has an end product.
No, I know Elliott's way better, but like in
Yeah.
terms of his style and what he does and what he adds to the team, he reminds me a lot of Elliott. And I don't. I think Elliott's level is above.
Yeah, he's a 5'8" bantamweight. I mean, the guy, he looks like you give him extra scoops of mash and double chicken on his dinner, like just to try and fatten him up a little bit. He has all the promise of what a good technical Japanese footballer can be, but he doesn't score and he doesn't assist. And Madrid are asking for 52 million for this kid.
But he's not at Madrid though. He's at Real Sociedad. He's not.
He's at Real Sociedad. He scored 9 goals and 2 assists in a side that were geared to counter-attack and play a certain way. They were geared for it.
But is it a side that scored just over 50 goals? They're actually built defence and nicking games.
Exactly.
But
they're built to go through him to lay off into a striker, and he did it twice. He's only got 2 assists.
I don't know where these links came from.
I haven't a clue.
I just seen them.
Like, is it the interview that happened with Endo where he where that got interpreted? Is that where it's coming from?
I don't even know about the interview.
Okay, so Endo came out and he was talking about how the club is looking for a successor to Mo Salah, and this was an interview in his native language. And when he was questioned about who he would think would be a good person to stand in for Mo Salah, he said Kubo. But I don't know if and then it came from some sort of Japanese media outlet that supposedly was the one that revealed Endo, that now Liverpool are in for Kubo. So I don't know if the whole story just came from this interview that he did. And I don't know if it was interpreted differently. I have no idea with language translations and stuff, but I haven't seen anything anywhere else. I think everyone just sort of jumped on this bandwagon because we're all absolutely out of our minds desperate for anything.
Yeah, look, it's a name that's out there. I threw it in tonight because it's not a Liverpool transfer show. It was more of us talking about players and who we could everyone could look at in the summer, but that's come out. Last thing, because we have to go, right? I'm determined to be finished here in the next 5 minutes, right? So don't start talking about fucking yogurts, recycling, anything along the lines where you trigger me, because I'm not fucking falling for it, right? I'm watching you, Ashley and Kev.
What's your barbecue game?
No, not interested. Barbecues are overrated, but spice burgers is the answer. This thing today was brilliant, right? So I actually seen a picture of Anfield the other day. It was someone posted on Twitter, and it was just they panned around Anfield and said, "Oh, the pitch is taking shape," because they always do the pitch every year, and didn't even notice these things in the Anfield Road end, thought none of it. And next of all, a picture came in this morning into one of the groups, and it was like, what's all this about? There's 6 blocks in the Anfield Road end, and they're covered up, and the first 2 look very like 6s are being covered, and then there's 4 things after that. I'm wondering, is that 2028 or 2029? Lads, Chris, we're literally this is like a fucking drug addict looking down the back of the sofa for his last fucking pill. This is madness.
To be fair, me and Kev looked at it and we went that would be quite LFC creative for the media team.
Yeah, but you do it in the Kop.
But then me and Kev said, well, why would you not do it in the Kop? Because that would make more sense.
Yeah.
And then I said it's probably just funny the way it's landed. And it came out later, it's because they do some work on the roof.
But the thing is, but my only argument with this, and if I want to go conspiracy theory on it, is why do you block these amount of seats under the roof?
And why were the rips strategically placed in a 6?
Social media team having a laugh at it, going,
you know what I mean?
Oh, it's funny.
This look at them going.
But apparently, Scouser Pete is saying that Avo has it on good authority that it's concrete worms. There's a problem with concrete worms in the Anfield Road. Remember the time he told us? Remember the time he told us we're going to have to take the whole stand down because the concrete wasn't right. People were like, "Oh no! Like I have tickets for this game and the stand's not even going to be there anymore." And then it was absolutely fine. They're like, "Nah, look, 2 test events. It's absolutely grand." O'Sheen says this is a sign of desperation for us to do something. We're clutching at straws at this rate. It was fantastic though. Actually, like, where would you get it? They've thrown a few.
The creativity is next level. I mean,
but the funny thing is, right? The funny thing is, can I just say to you, if this was Goodison, right, and the people walking on the roof had the gall to put red patches on their seats to make sure the seats don't get damaged, like they'd literally burn the place down. We're all right. Blue, we're not bothered if it's blue. They had blue tarpaulin. What can we do? But yeah, it's just madness, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's creative is what it is. It's like you're upping the flight tracker to like the next level.
Yeah, and
I think people are desperate.
It was good fun though.
But I was looking at it and people were like, maybe it's Adidas, and I was like, why the fuck would it be Adidas? We're sponsored by Nike. Like Adidas can't come in and go, listen, we have a weekend free in July. We'll come in and do the seats. We're taking over next year, but any chance? And Nike going, yeah, there's no problem. Everybody who walks on that ground can see Adidas instead of Nike. I was like, seriously, right? And then I've seen so many fucking things to it. But the funniest thing will be if Trent is announced standing in front of the Anfield Road then, right? With 66 2028 or something on it. It will be fantastic because the uproar over this is absolutely mad stuff. Like
it would be hilarious if they heard the story and then changed the way that they were going to announce him so that it matched the conspiracy.
Or what they could do is, if he was signing a contract, and they've clearly seen this story now, where they could start off, right? Where they could start off with like a whiteboard, right, with a picture, like someone drawing a marker of the Anfield Road end and putting 662028, and then going, and just a bubble coming out going, we got caught for that. What's plan B? And then they show the actual video. They should, if he signs a contract, they must use this footage of the Anfield Road end.
They have to, yeah, for the crowd.
Because
the band's going to be off the charts.
Liverpool got form for that though, because both when Salah signed and Salah's last extension, they did similar social media things. There was one where he was scrolling through Twitter going, sign Salah when you sign Salah, and he just looks up going, Salah signed.
Yeah.
And then we had the thing with his agents where he put some sort of cryptic message out, and then the Liverpool Twitter account replies with going, "Oh, you at it again?" We're like, "Oh, hello, that's an unusual reply." And then you're like, "Oh shit, he signed an extension." So it would be very Liverpool if they do get signed an extension to play off it, because they are quite.
They did the Christmas tree thing too, right? Where like the fans were asking for, who was it that was signed in January, and they wanted them to mimic Virgil's Christmas tree announcement.
Oh, was it Cody Gakpo?
It might have been Gakpo, where they did the exact same thing because the fans were saying, "Oh, we want this." It would be funny.
Yeah.
I think you got to give credit to Aston Villa today though for their kit launch.
Oh yeah, with Ozzy Osbourne.
You see the video with Ozzy Osbourne, yeah. That was one of the better ones that I've seen now in a long time.
Yeah. Imagine Apple says
that was really good.
Trent wearing his dungarees and a hard hat. You see, you can do anything. You could have you could have a shot over his head of someone in a hard hat screwing a chair into the ground, right? And then Trent just looks up, right? And then he just walks down the steps, and as he walks away, the camera pans around, and the thing is behind them. It's such a missed opportunity if Trent signs a deal that they do not do something with this blue stuff on the Anfield Road end, like, you know what I mean? And how Spirit of Shankly having been absolutely inundated with what is going on. This club is a shambles. Like, why are we putting blue on the seats? Like, how it hasn't been like thing is absolutely unbelievable. But look, there's nothing changed with Trent. I've seen some rumours going around then today saying he signed the deal 2028 on 300,000 a week. These are rumours and stuff like that. But that's only kicked off this morning because after this picture's being seen, Yeah. And I think it was like, I think someone said it originated from like Sports Bible or one of these fucking poxy sites. So yeah, look, it's People are clinging, people are clutching, but we'll have to.
We have to be patient. The one thing I'll say though, the lads got on the plane to America today.
Oh fuck him! Oisin says it. I'm 2 minutes over already.
Yeah.
Come on, Kev, hurry up.
It's a really young squad that's going out there, and we were talking about it in the group earlier on about when the others will join up and what have you. But if you work at it, that everyone is going to get 3 weeks off. Odds are the guys who might join up with the squad but won't get involved in anything are the likes of the Dutch lads, players who were involved in semi-finals.
Yeah.
But anyone who was involved in a Copa final or a Europa final, like the English lads, Trent and Joe Gomez, they won't be back until after the last game of the pre-season.
Yeah.
So
they did say Gravenberch Canals, they could be back a little bit early because they weren't involved.
Yeah, they were in the semi-final.
They were semi-final, but they weren't involved, as in didn't play. So they may come back not long after Jota.
So Air Force game is Friday night into Saturday morning, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Against Betis in Pittsburgh. Cool. I think that's about it. You've picked some good players. I've thrown a few at you. We've solved the issue of the Anfield Road end. And what's that else? I don't think there was anything else. Today is Tuesday. We'll try to do something tomorrow. We might be off on Thursday, but we might just watch that match on Friday night into Saturday morning if there's anybody around wants to watch it. We might do that. You know these watch-alongs that we only do in the summer when games don't matter. And we might do them just because you're staying up on Friday having a few cans. So that's what we might do. Thanks a million to everyone for watching. Thanks to Kev. Thanks to Ashley. Thanks to Chris. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we'll talk to you soon. Over here.